physiological mechanisms that can reduce inflammation and begin what is called resolution of inflammation, you can actually downregulate inflammation and help the body in wound healing. And so, inflammation can be brought about by a variety of different mechanisms. Let's say by exposure to toxicants, pathogen infection. We have the pandemic as a good example, or in terms of nutritional deficiencies, where it can manifest in inflammatory disorders, or can help in in inflammation. As a result, you have the disease. And what I do in the lab is, our lab looks at particularly the role of nutrition and or dietary supplementation. By not just reducing inflammation, but also increasing resolution of inflammation. And when I say resolution, I usually mean there are multiple different immune mechanisms that partake in this effect. And that also involves the role of multiple immune cells, many mediators. They could be protein mediators, they could be lipid mediators, a variety of different mediators that help in resolving inflammation. So my lab has multiple different models of disease. These are not just cell lines or cells, it is animal models, particularly mice are our favorite model. And some of these mice have different genetic mutations that we have created, and so that's how we use to study them. So we use models of endotoxemia or parasitic infections, gastrointestinal infections, or inflammation in the form of intestinal or inflammatory bowel disease, or colitis or Crohn's disease, leukemia, and also some anemias of inflammation. Because whenever you get anemia, it also, or when there is inflammation, the body actually reduces the levels of iron, and that leads to a transient anemia. And that transient anemia is probably not a good thing in the long term. So my lab actually studies some of this. But today what I'm going to do is give you a snapshot of the work that we do with selenium, and then get into more omega-3 fatty acids and how they can be used to produce certain lipid mediators that we can use to treat leukemia. So next slide, please. I'll give you a quick introduction about selenium, because this is oftentimes ignored when we talk about trace elements, that trace elements, though we need it in very low amounts, they are extremely important in your physiology. So one such trace element, selenium, which was discovered about over 200 years ago, is different from other trace elements like iron or magnesium or zinc, because it occurs in the form of, even though it is an elemental, it's an element, it gets incorporated in the form of the 21st amino acid called selenocysteine, called SEC or SEC, the three-letter word. And then the single letter code for the amino acid is U. Okay, it's not uracil as in the base, nitrogen base, but it is U as in selenocysteine. And what we know from our previous work and many others in the field for the last 200 years is that selenium deficiency can cause a wide variety of diseases. And some of those that are extremely important are is a disease called Kishan disease. And this was first found in China, where the soil in a particular province in the northeastern part of the country, close to north of Beijing, has very low selenium levels in the soil. Same is true in Tibet, as well, and in Scandinavia and in UK, parts of New Zealand, and so on, and even in India too. There are places where there is low selenium, but there are also high selenium areas in India. But what they found in places where there was low selenium was that people had cardiomyopathy, and as a result, a lot of people were dying of cardiomyopathy until they found that the soil levels in the soil, the levels of selenium was very low. And when they started fortification, they found that they were able to help people survive and move on. So selenium, not only causes Kishan disease, but it also can help in reduce another disease called the Keshan-Beck disease, where we see the effect in the form of osteoarthropathy. And many inflammatory diseases like breast cancer, prostate cancer, leukemia have been shown to have an inverse causal relationship with selenium levels in the body. Preeclampsia in pregnant women is also related to selenium levels. Hypothyroidism is also another disease where low levels of selenium can manifest in hypothyroidism. In cattle, particularly cows, we see there is a disease called mastitis, where the udder becomes infected with Staph aureus bacteria, and there is massive inflammation, and so the milk